Pastor, question for you. Are you taking on too much in your church? In this lesson, you're going to discover why trying to be Superman could actually be one of the biggest barriers to your church's growth. And then you're going to learn how to harness the strength of your team instead. Just this other Friday afternoon, I was on the phone with a dedicated pastor, right? And he was prepping sandwiches. He was going to feed the homeless. And simultaneously, he was planning to call all of his members for an outreach event the next day. So it was Friday. He was going to reach people. They were going to go do some outreach on Saturday. So he's prepping sandwiches to feed the homeless, calling his team, making sure they're going to be there, making plans to pick some of them up and make sure that they're actually present in the church. And Saturday morning, he was going to go pick up some of these members. He was going to make sure that they opened up the building and set everything up. Make sure that they were ready to go feed the homeless in the community. Then he said to me he was going to come back home, have lunch with his family, continue prepping for the sermon, have dinner, finish prepping in the evening. And I said to myself, whoa, man, that's a lot of stuff you're trying to do. And I remember we were on the call, and I said to him, you're like Superman. And he got really quiet. I was like, oh man, I hope I didn't offend him. And he said, it's not that the church is too busy. It's that me and my wife are too busy. And it was in that moment that I realized that what this man was struggling with, this pastor was struggling with, is this concept that we call Superman syndrome, right? And the reason that it's an issue is because it violates Ephesians 4:12, right? 4:12, remember the verse, right? It's to equip his people for works of service. Your job, my job as pastors, to equip his people for works of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. But here's the problem. Many of us, instead of equipping, we're doing. Right? Instead of equipping people for works of service, we're actually doing the works of service. And so what is this Superman syndrome? So here's the thing. Superman syndrome occurs when senior pastors take on almost every task, believing that they need to be the heroes of their church. That if they don't do it, it's not going to get done. And if they give it over to volunteers, it's not going to be done at the same quality that they want to be done. And so here's how you know, 3 quick questions to know whether you have Superman syndrome. Number 1, in order for a project to get done, you have to be involved. If every project in the church requires your involvement, you have Superman syndrome. Number 2, if a leader or a volunteer cannot make a decision without your involvement, meaning every decision needs to be run by you, then you have Superman syndrome. Number 3, if you're struggling to get your congregation to volunteer, to serve, right, meaning you have a congregation of spectators, then you have Superman syndrome. See, one of the things about Superman syndrome is what it does is it creates a culture. It creates a culture of spectators. This is where everybody's looking at you do the ministry. And maybe every so often they might even applaud you because you're doing an amazing job. You're such an amazing pastor. Oh, we're blessed with a great pastor. But the problem with that is that the pastor has become the primary ministry take care or person who does the ministry versus the people doing the ministry, right? Peter, he calls them a royal priesthood, meaning you have a congregation of potential priests, and instead what's happening is they're spectating and you're watching. They're not involved. They're just watching you do the ministry. And here's what I want you to make sure. I want this to be so clear in your mind. When you have a culture of people who are consistently watching you, when you create this culture because you're always doing the ministry, you are violating Ephesians 4:12. You are no longer equipping people in the ministry. You're no longer building them up. Instead, you are robbing them of opportunities to grow, right? Because every time you say yes to a ministry, that means that someone else is saying no. Every time you take on a task, that means someone else is lacking or missing the opportunity to be stretched, to grow in their giftings, to grow in their faith. Now, I know what you might be thinking. If I don't get it done, it's not going to get done right. I got it. You actually might be right in this one. But here's the problem. Okay. Unless people have an opportunity to fail, they will never grow. Okay? Unless they have an opportunity to actually try, they will never grow. And if you're always doing all of the ministry, you end up creating a culture where people are afraid to try because they don't want to disappoint the pastor and they don't want to disappoint God. And the reality is that by not serving, that's the failure. That's the shortcoming, when people are not given an opportunity to serve. And so I want to make sure that you have a clear mindset. I want to make sure that you're clear on the importance of taking a step back, right? And making sure that others are getting involved. And so let me give you one quick tip on how to start breaking this culture. Okay. Give responsibility away. Give it away. So what they feel, right? As long as it doesn't mean that someone is going to stop coming to the church or renounce Christ, or, maybe, the bank account goes down to zero. As long as it's not those major things, let them fail and then pull them to the side and coach them up. Okay. This is what your role needs to be. Instead of being the hero and doing all of the work as a pastor, you're a coach. Your job is to pull things out of people. In fact, one of my favorite verses, Proverbs 20 verse 5, says it this way. He says that man is like a deep well, right? But it takes the wise to draw it out. So in other words, there is stuff inside of the people that God has trusted you with. There are giftings and purpose and plans that God has deposited inside of them. And your job is to dig deep, because some of it is deep, right? Not easy to see. Some of it is deep. You have to dig deep inside of the person to draw those things out. But when you do, come on, let's just take a moment and imagine. What would your ministry look like if you had 5, 10, 15, 20 people living out their purpose, operating in all of their giftings at your church? What kind of community impact would you have if all of your 5, 10, 15, 20 key leaders were serving in their areas of passion and purpose, the areas that God has designed them in, and they're thriving in these areas? What would that do for your ministry? Quick story. I heard of this one pastor in California. Told us a story. I was seeing this on a video one time, and he was telling a story where he was saying that his church had grown to about 200, and then he hit a lid, and he said to himself, "Man, maybe I'm just a 200 church pastor. That's it. That's my gifting. My leadership capacity is up to 200. At 200, I can't grow the church anymore." And then he realized I think he went to a conference, he had a conversation with someone, and he had this aha moment where he realized, hey, I'm doing it wrong. I'm more concerned about tasks instead of people. And so instead, he began to invest in growing people. The moment he started to focus on growing people, doing leadership training, spending some time with them, investing, developing leaders, what began to happen in his church is not only did he break 200, he broke 2,000. His church began to grow. Why? Because there was an intentional investment in people. And so I want to challenge you, right? I want you to recognize the signs of Superman syndrome in your ministry. I want you to understand that trying to do it all on your own, it's not sustainable. It's going to lead you to overwhelm, right? It's going to lead you to just, breaking down and being frustrated and getting yourself to a point where you start to, like Moses, despise the ministry. But instead, what I want you to do is I want you to start, even now, as an action item, I want you to start by identifying 2 to 3 people that you can trust with responsibility and invite them to join you in this course. Yep. Send me their names. Send me an email. Okay. Put it inside of our community group, or put it inside of a DM, or send me an email. Get in contact with me. Give me their names. give me their emails, and I will add them to this course so that you can take the course with them. Why? Because I don't want you to be the Superman. I don't want you to do this by yourself. I want you to collaborate with the people that God has deposited in your ministry. Okay, so in this lesson, right, we addressed the number one enemy of church growth. In the next lesson, we're going to talk about a second enemy, and it's called culture. All right, I'll see you inside.